For decades, an epidemic of glue ear has condemned Indigenous Australians to long-term hearing loss. Internationally, Aboriginal children have the highest rates of middle ear infection and disease of any people in the world. And this year, a Senate inquiry declared the condition a national crisis. Now, a groundbreaking study has found that middle ear infections in Indigenous children put them on a pathway to prison. Sarah Dingle reports.
Let's see if this is going to...
At a primary school on the outskirts of Perth, Charlene Lane is having her ears checked.
This definitely doesn't look too good. All the pussy stuff. When was the last time it came out of your ear?
Last week.
Yeah? Okay.
Due to ear disease, Charlene was fitted with 2 hearing aids at the age of 10. Now she's 11, but the infections continue.
She's got a perforation in her right ear. Last time I was here, it was discharging. She would be finding it difficult, but she could be sitting up the front of the class.
Audiometrist Anne O'Leary works for the charity Telethon Speech and Hearing, screening Aboriginal children for ear infections.
What did you say? That blood was coming out of this one?
Yeah, and this one.
Middle ear infection, or otitis media, affects many Australian children, black and white. But factors like overcrowding, poor nutrition and hygiene, and passive smoking compound the problem. For Aboriginal Australians, the infection is up to 10 times more likely to turn into torn eardrums, corroded ear bones, and lifelong hearing loss.
What's wrong?
Well, I can see your grommet vaguely amongst the pus.
Telethon's mobile ear clinic first arrived at the all-Aboriginal Mordich Noongar school 2 years ago, where Noongar woman Sue Jetta is an Aboriginal education officer.
Some of the kids' ears were so bad that when you sat in class with them, you could actually smell. The smell was so overpowering, I found it very hard to sit next to them.
She's also a foster carer for one of the students, whose mother is in Perth's Bandiup jail. Now, a new study at that prison has outlined the adult cost of the disease for Aboriginal people. This year, Telethon became the first non-government agency in Australia to screen the entire adult Indigenous population of a jail for ear disease and hearing loss.
We expected to find that the ear health of the Indigenous inmates was pretty bad. What we found was every bit as bad as we expected.
Over 3 months, they tested more than 100 Aboriginal prisoners at Bandiup Women's Jail. They've released their results exclusively to the ABC. A staggering 45% of the Aboriginal prisoners failed the test, meaning they had significant hearing loss. Nationally, once they enter the system, prisoners surrender their rights to Medicare benefits. There are health services provided on the inside, but Bandiup, like other institutions, is overcrowded. According to Telethon, an appointment to see the doctor can take weeks.
So there was perforations, there was discharging ears, just fluid behind the eardrum.
They just had ears leaking pus.
Well, see, often it doesn't run down, but you'll see it in the whole cavity.
Are there any ear checks carried out by the Department of Corrective Services when a new inmate arrives?
Their ears are looked at when they come into prison by the doctor. They don't have formal hearing tests per se unless there's something to indicate that they might need it.
The prison refused to confirm whether any of these women were being treated at the time of screening. Telethon says the Bandiup results are disturbing in more ways than one.
That we have 40% of our children in schools, metropolitan schools, unable to hear. And then we have this 46% or 45% of people in our prisons who can't hear. It strains credulity to suggest that these are different groups. There has to be some overlap here.
Earlier this year, a Senate inquiry found that for Aboriginal people, it was likely there was a link between hearing impairment and getting caught up in the criminal justice system. Telethon says the Bandiup prison results mean that for the first time, there's data to back this up.
Children go to school with gunked up ears, they don't succeed, they don't graduate. We know from the data that the prisons department's putting out that they don't graduate. Where does this pathway lead? What are we doing here? And the answer is we've got kids destined to fail.
Even Australia's first Indigenous member of the House of Representatives has been affected by otitis media.
Look, I had it as a kid, and if I'm in a nightclub or where there is a lot of noise, I've got to read the lips of the person talking.
A former director of Aboriginal health in 2 states, Ken Wyatt, says he supports Telethon's findings.
Where you can't hear, your easiest option is to drop out. Once you drop out, you start getting caught up with your peers. You tend to become the focus of attention. Eventually, boredom or a range of activities leads you to commit an offence and you end up in the prison cycle.
WA's Department of Corrective Services says they're in talks with Telethon about screening in other jails, but they deny that childhood hearing loss is a pathway to prison.
There's lots of people with hearing problems out in the community that have never been in jail, so you need to set up a study and research that hypothesis properly. You can't make that extrapolation from a simple screening.
Back at Moorditch, the principal says targeting the children's ears has delivered huge improvements.
Less high-end playground fights, less high-end negative interaction with each other in the classroom, so that makes a difference.
After 2 years of treatment by the clinic, the referral rate for these students has dropped from 75% to 25%. Children with severe infections like Charlene are now in the minority and have a good chance of being on the road to recovery.
Our Aboriginal children are our future, and we need to be able to help them with these health issues so that they can mix in society, so they can get a job in society. And we want to be proud of them.
Sarah Dingle, Lateline.